And that takes us to a really interesting conversation to end the episode, and it's with the newest club in MLS, San Diego FC. Because after just 15 weeks as an MLS club, San Diego have made headlines, but for a lot of the wrong reasons. Most recently, this comes as a fight in the stands with LA Galaxy supporters after their last match. Now, this comes after they opened their first ever home match with the P chant. I'm not going to use the term, but that was very, very blatantly, obviously used in their first match. And then there was another series of brawls in the parking lot after a match against LAFC earlier this year. The situations have cast shadows over the incredible start to life in MLS for the Californian side, as well as sparked fears for the upcoming competitions like the World Cup, the Gold Cup, and the Club World Cup. So the first question I want to ask you, does this take away from their image on the pitch? Do we think that their success is being overlooked by what their fans are doing?
I'd say generally no. I mean, I think outside of the LA, San Diego area and your MLS sickos, most people probably don't know about any of these incidents. Your kind of more casual New York City fan has no idea about any of these. They show up to watch NYCFC play. They probably know a couple of the star players in the league just from marketing they've seen at the games they've gone to, and that's kind of the extent of it. And I think there's a lot of fans like that that follow Major League Soccer. And you know what? That's fine for the state that Major League Soccer is in right now. But those fans, I don't believe, will have heard any of this stuff about San Diego fans. Maybe I think the only way that they would really experience it is if, something happened to NYC fans and then that kind of sparked a discussion within their community. But it sounds like a lot of this stuff is related to within this LA San Diego region. I think within that region, it definitely is like having an impact on the image of San Diego. But I don't think it's taking away from their success on a national stage. I think people will still look at the table and say, wow, this new team is coming in and they're in second place right now. They're doing really well. Like, I keep hearing Chucky Lozano's name and Dreyer's name thrown around. And it's like, I'm learning a little bit more about the club, but I still don't know like much about it at all.
Interesting, because I think it does have an impact to a degree. I'm not saying it's taking away completely, right? But when St. Louis, and I'll use them because they were the most recent, went on this miracle run to the top, right? Brand new team in the Western Conference, have a really good start to life, right? The conversation was about the brilliant run, how quickly the team gelled together, and how much money each club got paid per back pass to Joao Klaus in their own box, right? Those are the three things people were talking about. But here it's about Andres Dreyer's emergence as a top MLS player and the fact that their fans are doing some of the most ridiculous stuff in the league, right? It's about Chucky Lozano coming over and making an impact, and how the P chant has made its way into American culture, right? Something we've never seen before to this degree, right? It's about Luca De La Torre coming over and playing in his hometown, and if the opposing fans can feel safe to travel and see him play, right? And I think that's a shame that that is tied to it. Now, is it taking directly away from it? No, but it does feel like it has some sort of dampening effect on what they've done, and I think that's a shame. Now, to the level of what it is, right? We're two guys on the East Coast. Don't get a bunch of it, right? But it could be something that's happening a lot in the West Coast, right? And we don't know. Maybe somebody can tell us. But I think the question really is, how do they stop this? Because I think you and I can both agree, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit. You and I can both agree that this probably isn't great for the state of the league. So how do we get this to stop?
No, they definitely have to do something about it. I mean, you can't just consistently have such a hostile place for people to come watch games. I mean, that's just not going to fly. Like, I think, that happens in other countries around the world, especially for this sport, where it really like it is a hostile environment to go there as
Mhm.
an away fan, and you have to be cautious and careful about it. But that's not the state that like Major League Soccer is in right now, and it's not the state that they should be heading towards. It should be a safe place for any away fan to be able to go watch the game and win or lose, not have to like be concerned about their safety at the end of it. The only thing I could think of right now is like a way to stop it is just to like be very harsh on the people that are getting in trouble early on and kind of like making an example of it. And like, hey, listen, you're going to do the same thing as these guys. You're going to get the same punishment where you're, I don't know, banned for life from the stadium. Like
Mhm.
you can't come back to the stadium anymore. And maybe they change it over like along. down the line and they change it and it's not a permanent ban anymore or whatever. But I feel like you gotta like just lay down you gotta lay down the law and you gotta lay it down strong and just make sure that it's like well known to everybody that like this is not acceptable here. This will not fly. Honestly, if I'm Major League Soccer and I don't see them necessarily taking the proper steps to stop this and it continues to go on, then I'm stepping in as Major League Soccer as the body and enforcing punishments on the club to make sure that they will take this seriously.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think there's something you can do that's even easier than that to start. You've got players who these theoretically these fans respect really well, right? Chucky Lozano, star of the Mexican national team. The fan base in San Diego, very, very much Mexican American descent, right? We've seen that. The supporters groups in those areas are affiliated to that nationality. Have him come out and make a statement, right? A direct conversation with these people saying, you need to stop this. This isn't what we want the club to be about. This isn't what we want the team to be focused on. We want to focus on the field. Don't do this, right? Same thing with Mikey Varas, right? He's the head coach of the club who's taking you to really, really good heights right now, right? If the fans have an ounce of respect for the club, calling them out and telling them to quit it with all this hooliganism, it could do wonders. But I haven't seen them do any of that stuff, right? And that's again one of the differences in American soccer versus something overseas where you see people come out all the time, maybe not all the time, but when they need to and make these comments saying this is too much. Stop doing this, right? But then I agree with you. Then it's on the league and the club itself, right? So, I've already seen that the clubs are considering these heavy bans for those involved in the fights, right? Which is great. And I think that's a good step, like you were talking about. But, right, will the league have to step in and do something, right? We've seen that this hooliganism, it's a term that I'm using for this, is punished in other countries with matches behind closed doors and fan banning and things like that. And we've seen MLS step in with fan control before. And I should maybe rephrase that. I don't know if it's necessarily always MLS or if it's the club directly, but when you light flares, when you pop smoke, when you do things that are clearly against these supporters groups' code of conducts, they'll step in and say you've lost your privileges. Will we see them take it to another level and start banning people completely? We've never seen it done in MLS, and it would set an interesting precedent if it's implemented against San Diego because it's a step even farther than we're ever seeing before, right? Because you're taking the actions of a few and impacting the entirety. And I just want to focus kind of on this idea of hooliganism in America before we end the episode. I want to ask you your thoughts about it because there are a handful of these pay for a blue check mark accounts on Twitter that are going to wax poetic about hooliganism is a sign of true fan culture in football and American soccer is weak because they don't embrace it and people don't love their clubs enough to die for them and fight for them and all this these people are idiots and they're fools, right? If we ever get to a point where American families can't feel safe going to a game, we've lost the absolute plot, in my opinion. And I want to get your thoughts on that. Is it a problem, do you think, or is it a sign of fan culture? Should we find some sort of happy medium? What are your thoughts here?
No, it's absolutely a problem. And to tie the whole episode back together again, the kind of fan passion that you should be seeing is the stuff you're getting out of FCC fans, the way they react to the Lucho Acosta situation. I mean, that's like, it's not a situation where they're going to, but I mean, listen, I'm sure there's a couple of bad seats in there, but it's a situation where you're not seeing majority of the fans going up like too far and showing their displeasure because there's such a like passion for the club and for the players that play for the club, including former players, that you'll get that reaction in that situation. And it's almost similar to the way that like I remember hearing about like the Trent situation in Liverpool. Your brain could shut off. I just did another England team, but
Who?
I think at first when it came out that he was leaving and going to Madrid, there wasn't this feeling right off the bat of like, oh, well, thank you for everything you've done. Like you've done so much for the club. You've been like a face of the team. Like, I'm so grateful for everything you've done. It's like, how could you do this to us? Like, how could you not say anything about it? How could you just let your contract run out and not let the club get any value for you? It was like frustration because they're so passionate about the team and about their players. That's what I would want to see like more out of the fan base. And I think you're getting that to some extent with like the way that Cincy fans are showing it. So there's absolutely a right way to show passion and grow passion within the fan bases, but the stuff San Diego is doing is absolutely not that.
Yeah, I think that's really brilliantly put, right? Because romanticizing this insanity needs to stop. Like I'm tired of and it's very, very small percentage, by the way. I'm not out here saying like, oh, everybody who is a Euro snob wants hooligan. Like I'm not saying that, but I have read a couple of accounts where like, yeah, Americans will never be able to be a real football culture till they can do this. And it's like people just beating the heck out of each other in the streets after Argentina rivalry, River Plate
Mhm.
and
Boca.
Boca. Thank you. I was gonna say Cruz Azul. I'm like, nope. I know they're blue, but don't say Azul. That's wrong. Um, right. And they're like, this is where we need to get to, and like we need fences locking people. Are we
No, that's
kidding?
horrible.
No one should feel unsafe traveling to watch a sports match on a weekend. But it goes both ways too, right? This started because, and from what I'm reading, this is I can't tell you it's corroborated or true or whatever. On opening weekend, some Galaxy fans stole the flag from a supporters group in San Diego, and they held on to it. And then last week they traveled to the stadium and hung it upside down, kind of like taunting them, right? Don't do that, right? Like you don't need to involve other fans in your support of your club, right? Support them with everything that you have on the pitch, but leave the other guys out of it. I'm tired of hearing these stories, and it's in all sports, by the way. It's not just MLS, right? Of people getting attacked because they were wearing a different sports team jersey than you. It's just not that deep. It's just not that deep. Like at some point, someone somewhere has to stand up and put their foot down because hooliganism cannot be the desired outcome for fan culture in America, no matter how many people try and tell you like this is the way it should be, right? It cannot be the path we head down because it is. I don't want to imagine a world where I don't even feel safe most of the time going to Red Bull New York City games. Luckily, I'm with Matt, who's wearing blue, and I'm wearing red, so we kind of don't get bothered by anybody. But every time I leave a Hudson River Derby, I always read on the ride home the update that four people got arrested because they fought each other outside the. Stop! Like it's not that deep, and it just doesn't have to get to that point ever. And I don't. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.